Welcome back to the deep dive. I hope you're somewhere comfortable for this one.
Mm,
I'm thinking maybe an oversized armchair, low light, maybe a glass of red wine, or, grape juice if that's your speed.
definitely that kind of vibe.
Because today we're settling in for something that feels a bit like a ghost story told by a fireplace,
Yeah,
but it's actually a masterclass in the mechanics of consciousness.
it really is. It has that perfect autumnal, slightly eerie vibe to it. It's cozy, but there's a draft coming from somewhere you can't quite locate.
Exactly. That unsettling chill right at the back of your neck.
Mm.
But before we get the fire crackling and the ghost story started, I do have to make a required statement.
Of course.
This podcast will be distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes.
Always important to get that on the record first.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Now, to set the scene, we are zooming in on a very specific slice of history today. We are opening up the archives to session 103 of the early sessions, book 3 of the Seth material.
Right. And just to ground us in time, the date of record here is November 2nd, 1964.
1964. I mean, context is everything here. The Beatles are blowing up. The civil rights movement is in full swing. The world is changing so rapidly.
It's a turbulent time.
And amidst all that loud cultural noise, in a quiet living room in Elmira, New York, a writer named Jane Roberts, referred to as Ruburt by the entity, and her husband Rob, or Joseph, are making contact with an energy personality essence named Seth.
And we really have to give a huge credit here.
Oh, absolutely, to the Seth material and the publisher, New Awareness Network, for preserving these records.
They have done an incredible job keeping this material available. It's really a day-by-day log of a psychological breakthrough.
So what is the mission of this deep dive? Why this specific session out of the hundreds available?
Well, this one's a gem.
Because honestly, this one has everything. It isn't just dry philosophy. It's got the mundane mixed with the metaphysical in a way that is just, it's delicious.
It really is a cross-section of their lives. You see the human struggle colliding with the infinite.
We're going to talk about the ethics of channeling while drinking wine.
A very important topic.
We're going to talk about how to deal with the most awkward family dinner imaginable using telepathy. And this is the part that really hooked me.
Oh, yeah?
We're going to talk about the physical sensation of your legs dissolving while you're walking to the grocery store to buy milk.
That last part. That is where things get truly chilling. It stops being a parlor game and starts being a reality-bending experience.
It is the hook that grabbed me. We see Jane Roberts and Rob really deep in their experimentation here. And things are getting weird, but in the best possible way. So let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We start with something surprisingly, bureaucratic. Logistics.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect it.
You'd think a spirit entity wouldn't care about a calendar, but Seth starts this session by explaining why they stick to such a rigid schedule, Mondays and Wednesdays at 9:00 p.m.
It's interesting, isn't it? Seth admits right off the bat that this schedule is actually limiting in some ways. He says, it is of course true that within our rather rigid schedule, we miss some excellent occasions for sessions.
Right. He's admitting that Jane has these high peaks of ability at random times. Maybe a Tuesday morning, maybe Friday at lunch.
And they just miss it.
They miss that energy. It's like having a radio that only turns on at scheduled times, even if the best song is playing when it's off.
Exactly. He says they miss instances when her abilities are at a high peak. But, and this is the key insight for anyone trying to learn a discipline, he insists that stability is key in the beginning.
It's like training wheels.
Yeah.
Or maybe weightlifting. You don't just go lift the heaviest weight whenever you feel like it. You have a program. You build the muscle memory.
That's a perfect analogy. Seth is so concerned with balance, he even mentions that if they do hold an unscheduled session because the energy is just undeniable, he will actually cut the next scheduled one short to balance the books.
I love that phrasing, balance the books. Even spirits have an energy budget. He says, I have always attempted to compensate by cutting the next one short or cutting it out entirely. It creates this image of Seth as this, cosmic accountant making sure Jane doesn't burn out.
It's all about protecting the instrument. And Rob, in his notes, he actually comments on this. He says he doesn't recall Seth ever eliminating a session entirely, but he definitely remembers sessions being cut short to make up for an extra one. It shows a real level of care.
But Seth goes on to make a prediction here, though. He talks about a spontaneous future.
Yes. He says, at some still rather far date, the present rigidity of our schedule may give way to a more spontaneous framework.
The idea being that eventually they'll be skilled enough to just catch those high peaks whenever they happen, which would cut down on distortions.
But there's a catch.
And I think this is such a profound insight for anyone trying to learn a skill or do creative work.
A paradox of freedom.
Yes. Seth says, and I'm quoting here, this kind of procedure, while appearing less disciplined, would in actuality require added discipline.
That stopped me in my tracks when I read it. We tend to think that being spontaneous means letting go of discipline. Just go with the flow, throw the map away.
Right. Be free.
But Seth is arguing the absolute opposite. To be truly spontaneous, to handle that level of energy at any moment without a rigid container, you need more internal discipline, not less.
Because if you don't have that internal discipline, you risk imbalance. You risk burnout. It's like a jazz musician.
Right. A novice musician needs the sheet music. They need the structure. They need the scales.
Exactly. If a novice just improvises, it sounds like noise. It's a mess. But a master jazz musician who improvises isn't just making it up.
No, not at all.
They have such a disciplined, internalized understanding of the structure, the theory, that they can afford to be spontaneous. Their discipline has become invisible.
That's it. That is a perfect way to put it. Seth is trying to build Jane into a virtuoso instrument. He warns that if they tried this spontaneous approach prematurely, it would place an added strain on both of them, especially Jane.
Because she's the one who has to make the final call.
Yeah, she's the one who has to make the decision in the last analysis of when to let Seth through.
So true freedom requires extreme discipline. It's not just about letting go. It's about being ready all the time.
It completely changes how you look at freedom. Freedom isn't the absence of rules, it's the mastery of them.
That makes perfect sense. Now, speaking of discipline, or perhaps a lack thereof, let's talk about the wine.
Ah, yes. The spirits and the spirits.
Seth transitions into this discussion about alcohol, and I found the tone here just fantastic. It's humorous, but also, it's very scientific in a way.
It is. Seth wants to address why Jane often feels drunk after a session, even if she hasn't touched a drop of alcohol.
And Rob notes this. He says Jane usually drinks milk or iced coffee during sessions, maybe a glass of wine occasionally, but she often says she feels tipsy afterwards.
Yeah, like she's had 3 martinis, but she's only had a coffee.
Exactly. And Seth explains the mechanics of it. He says, it is a fact that alcohol is a depressant, that conscious inhibitions become lessened with indulgence.
Okay, we all know that feeling. The edges soften, you get a little looser.
Right. But he connects it to the trance state. He says, at certain stages, a state of dissociation is achieved with the indulgence of alcohol. This stage is reached by Ruburt Jane without such indulgence, and it is this state that he recognizes.
So let's break that down. Trance is a state of dissociation.
And alcohol causes dissociation.
So to the physical body, to the brain, the sensation is almost identical.
That's what he's saying. The conscious guard is down. The ego's inhibitions are lowered. Whether you get there by deep meditation or by a nice Pinot Noir, the feeling of the self stepping aside is remarkably similar.
But this leads to a bit of a warning from Seth, the tipsy danger, if you will.
Right, because if the states are so similar,
then one can trigger the other. It's a valid concern. Seth points out that because Jane is training herself to dissociate for the sessions, she's essentially building a highway in her brain to that state. If she has a few glasses of wine socially, she enters that same state naturally.
The door is already ajar. She's greased the hinges.
Right. He says, conceivably at times during a social evening, several glasses of wine could lead him to misinterpret his data or get his signals crossed.
So basically, she becomes vulnerable to inner data when she's tipsy, which honestly explains a lot about why people get so emotional or psychic at parties.
Oh, completely.
You know, the type, the friend who has 2 drinks and suddenly knows exactly what's wrong with your relationship.
It really does explain that. You're chemically inducing a state where your ego barriers are lowered.
Yeah.
You're picking up on vibes and other people's emotions. And if you aren't trained for it, it just feels like a mess. You're wide open.
But Seth does reassure them. He says, I assure you that I would not be idiotic enough to agree to one.
I laughed at that. Idiotic. That's such a great word choice.
Me too. He's basically saying, look, if Jane is actually wasted, I'm not going to try to channel a book through her.
He says if she had truly had too much, she simply would not be capable of a session. But he does admit that a judicious amount of wine, and he underlines judicious.
Ah, the key word.
It is. A judicious amount is actually beneficial because it helps that relaxation process.
Okay, so a little wine is good for the spirits. But this leads us to the anecdote that had me laughing out loud.
Yeah.
The awkward family dinner.
Oh, this is a classic human moment. It's pure sitcom material.
So Seth brings up a specific evening. Jane's father came to visit, and he brought his woman.
The phrasing there is very observational. Seth doesn't use names. He just calls her the woman. It's so detached.
His woman. And apparently while Jane and Rob were drinking judiciously, the woman was drinking, let's just say, with enthusiasm.
Seth says the woman, unfortunately, was not as restrained in her drinking habits.
So picture this scene. You have a drunk guest. You have Jane's dad. You have Rob and Jane trying to hold it all together. And Jane, because she's having a drink, slips into this splendid state of dissociation.
And because she's dissociated and because it's her dad's partner, she is emotionally and intuitively attuned. She starts telepathically picking up on this woman's inner problems.
Seth describes it as the woman's inner plea for help. So Jane is sitting there at the dinner table, pushing peas around her plate, hearing this silent, screaming for help from her dad's drunk girlfriend.
It sounds like a nightmare.
And Seth is ready to go.
This is the clash of worlds right here. Seth says, I was perfectly willing to hold such a session. He was ready to pop out right there over the roast chicken and give this woman the guidance she was telepathically asking for.
Can you even imagine that? You're at dinner, everyone's already awkward, and suddenly the hostess's voice drops an octave, she takes off her glasses, and an ancient entity starts analyzing your life choices.
It would definitely be a memorable dinner, that's for sure. But this is where the humor comes in. Seth didn't do it. Not because he cared about the social situation.
No, not at all.
But because he sensed Rob and Jane's sheer panic.
He says, to me, the social entanglements and possible social disagreeabilities did not exist.
Disagreeabilities. Jane actually hesitated on that word during the session. It's such a perfect Seth word. He looks at our social norms, our politeness.
And just sees noise?
Yeah, he calls them changing, shifting, sometimes meaningless patterns.
To Seth, it's simple. If someone is asking for help, you give it. Who cares if it's awkward? But he respected Jane and Rob's embarrassment.
He says, I did not truly appreciate considerations that were strong with you. He essentially let them off the hook because he knew they would find it agonizing.
I just love that. It's the universal fear of embarrassing yourself in front of your parents. It's so relatable. Even with cosmic wisdom at your fingertips, you don't want to be weird in front of your dad.
It grounds the whole experience, doesn't it? They aren't just these enlightened prophets. They are people trying to navigate a social life.
So Seth holds back to save them from social disagreeabilities. But he does make it clear, if there was actual danger, he would interfere. But for social awkwardness,
that's on them.
He'll let them decide. You must make your own decisions, he tells them. It's about empowerment. He's not there to run their lives.
Right.
So moving on from the social scene, Seth pivots to something that I think every creative person listening really needs to hear. We're calling this segment Practical Magic.
This is about the impact of these sessions on their day jobs. Because you have to remember, Jane wanted to be a writer. Rob was a painter. They weren't trying to be gurus.
Exactly. And there's always this fear, right, that if you get too deep into woo-woo stuff or spirituality, you'll lose your edge in the real world.
Yeah, that you'll become ungrounded. You'll stop paying bills and start staring at clouds.
Seth just flips that argument on its head. He points out that since Jane started listening to this inner data, specifically around the 82nd session, her writing has objectively improved.
He says, his short stories dating approximately from that time display a much increased facility and knowledge.
And the marketplace is responding. Publishers are writing back favorable letters. This isn't just in her head. There's external validation.
And for Rob, it's even more specific. Seth talks about Rob's painting. He says Rob is solving artistic problems effortlessly that had plagued him for years.
And Rob confirms this in his notes. This is what's so great about these books. Rob writes, in several recent paintings, I have solved problems that I have been contending with for years. He calls it an almost magical ability to achieve whatever it was I wanted to do.
Magical ability. And this leads to Seth's redefinition of the word practical.
Yes.
We usually think practical means paying the bills, keeping your head down, doing the grind, ignoring the dream to do the work.
Seth says value fulfillment is the only true practicality.
That is a bumper sticker for the soul. Value fulfillment.
What does that actually mean in this context, though? What is he getting at?
It means that when you are fulfilling your core nature, when you are expressing what you are seemingly designed to express, that is the most practical thing you can do.
I see.
Seth argues that because Rob is no longer holding back, his work is improving. And because the work is improving, it will naturally attract buyers. It will lead to selling paintings.
So the spiritual work isn't a distraction from the real world. It's the fuel that makes you function better in it.
Exactly. If you ignore your inner self to be practical, you actually cut off the source of your power and creativity, which makes you less effective in the real world. You produce worse work.
Value fulfillment is the only true practicality. I'm going to carry that one with me.
It's a game changer. It really is. It gives you permission to be yourself because
Well,
being yourself is the most productive thing you can do.
all right, now we have to shift gears. We've had the wine, we've had the art lesson. Now we enter the chilling zone.
The Psi time experiments.
Psi time. It stands for psychological time. It's a technique Seth taught them to dissociate and perceive inner reality. And in the days following this session, things got spooky.
Let's start with Rob's premonition. This is from his November 3rd entry, the day after the session.
So Rob is getting dressed for work. Totally mundane morning. Shirt, tie, coffee brewing. And suddenly he has this clear thought just pop into his head. Go look at the back window. A car is blocking the garage.
Just out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere, he goes, he looks, and there it is. A neighbor's car is blocking him in.
Now, this isn't earth-shattering. He didn't predict the end of the world or a lottery number.
No, but it's specific, and it's useful. Rob speculates that he picked up a telepathic signal from the neighbor.
That makes sense. The neighbor knew he was parking wrongly. He knew he was blocking Rob. That knowledge, that little bit of guilt maybe, was projected out. And Rob, being in this sensitive state from all the training, just picked it up.
It's a small validation, a little wink from the universe. But then we get to Jane's experience on November 4th. And this is the main event.
This is where we go from telepathic nudges to full-blown altered states of consciousness.
So Jane lies down for a Psi time experiment. She's trying to relax. She asks herself a question about a book sale. And what answer does she get?
Evelyn's grandmother.
Evelyn's grandmother. I just love that. It's random psychic noise. It's like tuning an old AM radio and just catching a snippet of a commercial from another state.
It shows the honesty of the reporting, though. If they were making this up to look cool, they'd have some profound prophecy.
Right, not Evelyn's grandmother.
Instead, they get nonsense. But then, the nonsense stops, and the physics start to change.
Describe what happens to her. It's so vivid.
She's lying in bed. Suddenly, she feels the bed disappearing beneath her hands. She describes it as sand will shift away, leaving pockets of nothingness.
That is such a visceral image. The solid reality you're resting on just turning to sand.
She feels her thumbs grasping the edge of these holes of nothingness, and then whoosh.
The whoosh.
A sudden, physical rushing sensation out through the top of her head. A strong, frightening sense of motion she's launching.
An out-of-body experience, an OBE.
Exactly, or at least an attempt at one. But she panics. It's too fast, too violent. She stops it. She snaps back into her body.
And then she gets mad at herself, right? Which I find so relatable.
Yes. She's an explorer. She's angry. She got scared. She's frustrated with herself, so she decides to try again.
But this time, and this is the crucial mistake, she gives herself a suggestion. She tells herself she will go slowly.
Go slowly. Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? Take it easy, Jane.
It sounds perfectly reasonable to the conscious mind, but the subconscious, it's literal, isn't it? It hears slowly, and it interprets it in a way she did not expect at all.
Not in the slightest.
So she finishes the experiment, the alarm rings, time to get up and do errands. But she feels light.
She mentions an empty space above her wrists, a lightness in her hands, but she kind of ignores it. She has things to do. She has to go to the post office and the grocery store.
So she heads out. Just a normal afternoon in Elmira, but the vibe has shifted.
She describes a satisfying unity with creation. Everything looks brilliant. The colors are brighter, more intense.
And then the wire incident.
She's standing at a street corner waiting to cross. Telephone men are working up on a pole above her. A heavy wire drops from the sky and lands 2 feet from her.
2 feet? I mean, that's dangerous. That could have seriously hurt her.
Ordinarily, she says, she would have jumped. She would have gasped, at the very least. But in this state,
nothing.
She didn't flinch. It didn't seem important.
It's like she's watching a movie of her life instead of being in it.
Yeah.
She's detached.
She's in a state of high dissociation. And as she keeps walking, that suggestion she gave herself to go slowly starts to manifest fully.
A dissolving legs.
She's walking down the street carrying a bag of groceries, and suddenly she feels as if her entire body below her chest has simply vanished.
Dissolved.
Yeah.
That's the word she uses.
She has no muscular sensation of walking, no feeling of weight from her own body. She feels like she is floating. She can look down and see her feet moving, but she can't feel them hitting the pavement.
And this is where the humor and the horror just collide, because she creates this mental image that absolutely terrified me.
The floating torso.
She thinks to herself, if my legs are gone, am I just a chest, shoulders, and head falling onto the street?
It's terrifying. She's afraid she's going to leave her body unprotected in the middle of the road. She says her shoes felt heavy, like they were the only thing tethering her to the earth. The weight of her shoes.
Imagine seeing someone walking down the street, looking terrified, clutching a bag of milk for dear life, constantly checking to see if their legs are still there.
It's the perfect example of consciousness overriding physical feedback. Her brain had accepted the suggestion to leave the body slowly. So she was partially out, while her body was still performing the rote, automatic task of walking.
She finally gets home. She tells Rob what happened. And Rob, being the practical husband, goes into triage mode.
Coffee and ammonia.
Loss. Smell this. Wake up. Ground yourself.
He literally made her sniff an ammonia capsule to snap her back into physical reality.
And even after that, she says she walked through a hole of nothingness in her own living room. Just a patch of void in the middle of the carpet.
It just shows how malleable our perception of solidity really is.
That's the expert analysis I want to dig into here. What does this tell us about the nature of reality?
Well, Seth often discusses that we create our physical reality. We thicken energy into matter through our perception, through our beliefs. Jane, in this altered state, was seeing the world with less thickness.
She described the environment as extraordinarily brilliant.
Right. When you peel back the physical camouflage, the energy underneath is brilliant, but it's matterless. She was peering behind the curtain. The physical world is just a habit of perception. And when that habit is interrupted, even by a simple misunderstood suggestion to go slowly, the solidity vanishes.
It's absolutely fascinating. And it ties all the way back to the beginning of the episode. Seth's warning about discipline.
Yes. Jane gave a sloppy command to her subconscious. Go slowly. And she got exactly what she asked for in the middle of traffic, carrying groceries. It reinforces why Seth is so rigid about the schedule and the training. You are playing with the fundamental building blocks of reality. You need to know what you're doing.
This is not a parlor game.
No, it's a lesson in consciousness, and the stakes can be surprisingly high.
Wow. Okay, let's recap the journey we've been on today.
It's been a wild one.
We started with the logistics, the Monday-Wednesday schedule, and learned that true spontaneity actually requires extreme discipline.
Then we had the wine discussion, the mechanics of alcohol and dissociation, and the absolute comedy of the dinner party where Seth almost gave an intervention to a drunk guest.
We learned about practical magic, that value fulfillment is the only true practicality, and that spiritual work enhances your career. It doesn't hinder it.
And finally, we walked to the grocery store with Jane Roberts as her body dissolved into thin air, proving that the ground beneath our feet might not be as solid as we think.
And if you are as fascinated by this as we are, you have to go to the source.
You really do. We are just scratching the surface of what is in these books. The nuance, the detail, it's incredible.
We strongly encourage you to study the Seth material. Go to the New Awareness Network website. The URL is sethcenter.com/the-early-sessions.
That's sethcenter.com/8early-sessions. Get the books. Read Rob's notes. It's a complete treasure trove.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with a thought, a little something to mull over while you finish that glass of wine.
What's on your mind?
If Jane could walk down the street feeling like she had no legs just because she shifted her consciousness slightly, how solid is the ground you are walking on right now?
That is the question, isn't it?
Is the heaviness of the world, the weight of your body, the solidity of your chair, the resistance of gravity, is that just a habit of perception that you've been practicing since birth?
And if it is a habit, can you break it?
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you in the next session.
Good evening.
Good evening.